I used to always have a ball patch, but a couple of years ago, I used to hide that football field with a big jungle. Then I decided, let's make it a putting golf. Make the hair small and made it very big. Is there a comment? I'll spend some time very quickly talking about our organization, the company I work for today, Johnson Controls. Then let's visit something on the concept of the purpose of business. Why do we do business? What is the importance of new markets? How do you qualify a new market? What are the important parameters you really need to address to be able to understand new markets? Common mistakes people make when they enter new markets. What are the methods, the approach, the different approaches to enter new markets, and what are the competencies required? Johnson Controls is a Fortune 58 company. This year we celebrate 125 years of existence. Our founder was Professor Warren Johnson, who invented the first thermostat. That little box you see on the walls to modulate air conditioning temperature and airflow, that was invented by Professor Warren Johnson. Then he made the humidity stat, and then it set up a whole industry. I work for the building efficiency division, and our core mission in our business is to make buildings comfortable, safe, secure, and energy efficient. And today, sustainability is a very, very important issue, and we focus a lot on energy efficiency to be able to, which is a big subset of sustainability, and to be able to drive that mission forward. We also have a power solutions. Let me take a step back. In India, building efficiency is represented as a 100% subsidiary. That means we don't have any joint venture partners or whatever. We are on our own. Our power solutions group makes batteries for the automotive world. You will never see a battery with the name Johnson Controls. We make it in the names of various marketing outlets. We are OEMs. In India, we have a joint venture with Amar Raja. Amaron, the famous battery you must have heard. That name was devised as Amar Raja's Amar and Johnson's On, so that became Amaron. And it's doing very well, and in fact, they're trying to double the capacity of that plant. We also are into automotive. We make seats, including seats for Nano. You'll be surprised, the seats for Nano are made by us in less than $100. Yeah. The car costs $2,000. You can't afford to spend a lot on seats. So we make seats, a lot of seats, and we are the world's largest car seat manufacturer, as well as we are into automotive interiors, the dashboard electronics, what you see on the sides, on the panels of the car doors, all that. And we have a joint venture for this business with Tata. It is called Tata Johnson Controls, and that's located in Pune. Perfect. The DNA of our company, you'll see our vision mentioned there, our values, our 10-year marker. What is core in our values is that integrity is the only value which comes ahead of customer satisfaction. And this, as a lesson, I would like to share with you. Because I remember when I was like 6 or 7 years old, my late father told me a story. He said that in life, you'll always have two choices and two paths to choose. The first path will be instantaneous gratification, where you can cut corners, you can take shortcuts, and you'll quickly go forward, and then, but somewhere along the line, it will leave you with emptiness. The second path is a tough path, where you live by value systems, where you live with a lot of integrity, where you do the right things all your life, and you never ever get swayed. And if you follow that path, in the long run, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you'll be happy with the image you see. So I sincerely urge all of you all, because irrespective of high technology, irrespective of all the glitz, glamour and everything, never give away the path of integrity, because that is the core path to success. And the companies which lasted, and I'll share this with a statistical example. 75% of the companies on Fortune 100 lists in the last 20 years are out of that list. Because they grow quick, they grow without following the norms, without compliance, by flouting rules, and they quickly crashed and went out. And we have been there, steady, slowly, year on year, growing, inching, improving our position. So it takes time. But you can't sow the seeds today and expect harvest tomorrow, right? Every good deed requires time, and requires a lot of perseverance, requires a lot of effort. I won't go through the other things because this presentation will be shared with you all. You'll have access to it. Something about our company in India. We were incorporated in 1996 in India, and I was the founder managing director. We have more than 400 people. We have an all-India presence. We are present in 8 cities. We have over 1,000 system installations. I think about 2,000 chiller installations, chillers which are made for central air conditioning, so on and so forth. We have won several awards for innovation and customer care. We were the first company to set up a mid-market chiller plant in India, actually the first multinational company to do that. And then I'll talk to you about our other representations in India. Let's talk about businesses. I have a lot of definition here, but essentially, what does business mean to any of you? Please, just speak up. I told you I'm here to learn from you.
It's any activity that's done in order to earn profits.
Okay.
So business for me is when you're doing something good for the society and side by side earning profits because of that. That is business for me.
Okay.
So, business for me is being independent, taking your own decisions, making your own way.
Right.
Revenue generation for the country.
Okay.
So business is about sustainable, positive change.
Very good. I mean, each and every definition of business makes sense. Each and every definition. But in its base, it is exchange of value for value. In good old days, there used to be a barter system. I had a lot of rice, you have a lot of vegetables. I exchange rice for your vegetables. Then came the concept of money. And though people say money is the root of all evil, it's not true. It is never true. Money is not the root of all evil. The means you choose to earn that money makes it either good or bad. An industrialist invests his money, puts in the effort, grows the industry, and comes up the hard way, gives employment to so many people, and makes money himself, is the most moral way of earning. A robber steals. Robin Hood is one of the heroes in our books. I believe that he was a thief because he stole what was not his right to steal in the name of giving that to the poor. Robin Hoods are not heroes in this world. The true heroes of this world are all those people who went there, had the stake in the ground, built up industries out of nothing, talk of the J.R.D. Tatas, talk of the Dhirubhai Ambani, talk about all those big industrialists that we have in the country today. Talk of Lakshmi Mittal, and those are the people. And that's the route by which your hard work and you have grown that business. Okay, so please remember that. There are definitions. Definitions will be of all kinds, but primarily exchange of value for value. And value can be a perceived value. I like a shirt which the cost maybe of making maybe 200, but it's so fancy, it appeals to my, aesthetic appeal or whatever, and I pay 1,000 rupees for it. Do we say that 800 rupees profit made by the guy who sold it to me is incorrect? It's not. Maybe it went through various retail chains and there are a lot of other costs involved, but the guy made 100% profit or 150% profit, so what? But I felt that it deserved 1,000 rupees, so I paid for it, right? So it's exchange of value for value. Now, business, like I said, it serves the existing needs in an economy. Business creates new needs in a society or market. Sales enables business. The concept of selling is not necessarily, sales are normally associated with a lot of glitz, glamour, advertising, this, that. But it's simplistically, the process of making the sale is what enables business. And sales is exchange of goods or services for an amount of money or its equivalent. Now, what do new markets create? New markets create new opportunities, right? Take Pepsi. 41% of Pepsi's revenue comes out of its headquarters. Take Nokia. It leads to innovation. In a rural Indian market, they developed a mobile phone with a touch, a two-in-one product. It led to innovation, and that led to further growth, and it became a very popular model in the rural economy. Take Suzuki. The largest revenue and profit comes out of India. They don't make much money anywhere else in the world. They bank on the Indian market, and they are a company headquartered out of Japan. Take the Tata Group. 61% of the revenue comes from international operations. They operate out of 86 countries. I mean, very often you don't know these facts, but 61% is phenomenal. Take IBM. 35 billion out of 120 billion revenue comes out of India. 100,000 employees. And you take the outsourcing need. The West became too expensive. Business process was outsourced. It created a $60 billion outsourcing industry in India. Slated to grow to 120 billion in the next maybe 5 years. So there are various different concepts about entering new markets, and we will address each one of those. And each concept, each approach is very unique. There is no standard defined recipe. As we go forward, you'll see we can move from one approach to another approach depending on the need of the situation. And remember that agility and flexibility is the core to doing any business. How quickly you think on your feet becomes very, very important. These are some of the consideration one needs to take before entering a new market. What is the opportunity landscape? Can anyone help me? What does that mean? I want you guys to think. I'm sorry to say guys and gals. Yes?
Scope available in the market where you can position yourself.
Okay. Anyone else would like to try?
Gap between the current need and the future need.
Okay.
A huge consumer base, like widespread market.
So what you're saying is, essentially, what is it out there which I can address, or our organization can address? What can be our opportunity, right? What can we do, like you said, doesn't need future need. Yes, but future need needs to be, it's a forecast. And forecast has got a lot of background work to be done. But yes, if that market is going to grow, certainly. It's like today we say, and it comes from our industry, so I would love to share it with you. Today we have 70 million people in middle class. Expected to grow to 580 million people by 2025. The median income between 4,300 to 22,000 US dollars, right? Relevant to our industry, air conditioning industry, if I'm making a home unit, you know what you see on the wall or the room air conditioner, one of these. Today, the penetration of air conditioning in Indian homes is 1 in 10. A mature market like Singapore is 8 or 9 in 10. So what is the opportunity? And see the volumes in our country. Anyone who thinks about India thinks about the scale, the volume, the growing economy, the wealth which is being generated, the burgeoning middle class. All these become consideration. If I'm a belt manufacturer, I think If I make a belt and I do a math, and even if I get 0.0001%, it's still a huge market. I can become an entrepreneur, right? So it entirely depends on, like he was trying to project, the future projection, market today, opportunities today, right? Along with that comes a strategic fit. What do you think I'm trying to say when I say strategic fit? Strategy is a very widely used word, right? Everything is strategic. Like some of my sales guys come to me and say, we want to take this job at 5% margin. And I ask them why. It is a strategic job. This particular customer is going to grow. So the future is always bright. So what is the meaning of strategic fit?
Various alternatives which are available for an individual for fulfilling. There are various.
Can you slow down a bit?
There are various alternatives for an individual to fulfill that opportunity. For that, a strategy is required that which is the best alternative to adopt and make the market.
Okay. Can you define strategy simplistically, and how many different approaches are there to strategy? You know, all these big words have got very simple meanings. Can anyone help?
Can we say it is the best fit?
Huh?
Can we say strategy is the best fit for the situation?
Okay, can you expand on that?
Like I have an example, if you want to reach point B from point A, you have different routes. Which route to choose, why, and how will you proceed? That is the strategy.
How many routes are there?
Possibly 3 routes, and which
How
is the
many?
best?
Multiple routes?
Multiple routes. And
Thousands of routes?
Finding the best plan of action.
Maybe things have changed from the time I learned them. But I believe that there are only two approaches. Either it is a cost or it is differentiation. There can't be a third approach. Either you go with a low cost strategy, you make the cheapest, most competitive product, and you generate mass. Or you have a very high quality product with bells and whistles attached to it, which attracts the marketplace, and you command a premium. Right? The different types of soaps. You have a lifebuoy on one side, and you have so many of them, 1,000, whatever you call them. You wash half a face, become smooth, half a face. But it's just differentiation. There can't be a third approach. So remember that. You'll come across this word strategy many times. In fact, I have attended meetings, and this was perhaps about 6-7 years ago, or maybe slightly more. I was in US headquarters, and I was getting bored. So I started counting the number of times the word strategy used by one leader. And by the end of the day, I had counted that word over 100 times. So you'll hear that word very often, but remember when you hear that word, don't get scared. Basically, people are trying to tell you there are only 2 routes. There can't be a third. Either it's cost, or it is differentiation. All right, remember that. Required investments. This is pretty easy, right? How much you really need to invest before you make that new market entry, right? How much money you need to have? Is your wallet full enough? Available management bandwidth. This is very important. What do you think we are trying to say here?
Available experts.
Experts in what?
In all the fields.
See, basically, what we are trying to say here is, if you are entering a new market, imagine from India you are entering into the next country, a new country. Within your organization today, do you have a management talent to be able to exploit opportunities in that market? Or do you need to acquire that talent? It's a very important consideration, because without people, you know, Jayant was talking to me about balance sheet a little while ago, and sorry for a little digression. You know, people, the most important resource. What you owe the people is always put on the liabilities side of the balance sheet, and that's sad. I think people should be on the asset side, because people make business happen. You can't do business without people, right? So the right management bandwidth, the right quality of people with a vision, people with a drive, people with perseverance, do we have them in the organization? Or do we need to acquire that talent? That becomes an important issue. Then we talk of cultural and process. Sorry, please.
So in management bandwidth, you told that do you have people in the organization to exploit external markets, so let's say international markets. So won't it be more useful if you take a same caliber manager in the domestic market, in the international market, instead of using a manager from an outside market? Like if you are in India, you want a business in Australia, won't it be useful to take a manager who knows the local conditions out there and has the caliber instead of transporting a manager from India?
Could be. Could be. There are various reasons. Organizations do things from very, very different perspectives. You could hire a local manager, but would you have enough confidence, the trust level? Because trust integrity becomes very important for a company. Will that guy culturally fit in our company? All those considerations. So somewhere it's always a balance. And you'll find as you do more and more research that more and more companies today always have someone from the parent company heading the organization. The second tier could be local.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
I'll give you an absolutely live example. You know, when Heinz came into India, I think in 94, 95, somewhere thereabouts, they hired a local person. And Heinz bought some of the Glaxo's business at that point in time. The Glaxo Foods business. So that's how they came and started. The gentleman in Glaxo was heading the food business, was acquired by Heinz. He had adequate capability. His credentials were very good. His performance with that market was very good. But the point that he made, culture and process fitment. Heinz as a culture is very different. Heinz worldwide is not, winning food. Heinz worldwide is tomato ketchup. So they got in a guy called Chuck Berger, who's actually a legend. In the official history of Heinz, Berger's name appears 18 times, and there are 17 pages dedicated to written about Berger. So he's obviously a legend. He was flown in for the same reason he said. He knows the company. He knows the culture. He knows the process. He knows the value of the fact that the Heinz product, Heinz ketchup, will not flow. Heinz ketchup will not flow like water out of the, in the bottle. And those are things which we as outsiders, that was the trouble. You come at the back, the whole plotch comes out. But Heinz ketchup is not supposed to flow. Who knows that?
And finally, we are to talk of risk and impact. Do you think it's important to evaluate risk? Risk is sometimes not only financial risk. It's risk to reputation, it's risk to loss of opportunity. I focus too much on market A while market B is growing. And I've invested all my time, effort, energy there, management, attention there. And I've lost my ability to go to the next market. Now here, a little of what I have learned over a period of time and observed, I would like to share. When people have multiple businesses, sometimes an individual's ego asks him to spend a lot more time on a business which is failing. And in doing so, he takes management attention away from his most profitable business. And when people do that, the whole organization is pulled down. Be very, very objective in your evaluation of business. If a business is failing, if we don't have the right product, we don't have the right solution, we are out of there, it's better to get out of that market. If you can't be number 1, 2, 3 among the top 3, it's not worth being in that market. Put your management attention on something which delivers sustainable, profitable growth, right? Because you owe it to your shareholders, people who invested money in your company, to give them the returns. That is your primary goal in life, right?
So, So how do you assign a control point that beyond this I'll stop trying, or how do you develop it?
How do you develop?
That assign a control point. You are telling that you spend much of your time in much of the time after a failing business. Like, what is that control point? Where do you come to know, okay, boss, this is the last time I have to exit now, or something like that?
See, there are enough. I believe there are 6-7 of you all who are sitting in this room with prior experience, right?
Yeah.
Are you one of them?
There are many, but then we are doing a 1-year course.
I know.
There are many from.
I understand. The reason I'm not going into that kind of depth is I'm trying to make it simple. But there are enough control points as a manager. Your backlog business is a good control point. Is it dipping? How is it performing year on year? Right? Your customer satisfaction results that's coming emerging from the market is a control point. Your receivables stuck in the market is a big control point. The more receivables you have means.
Again, may I interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
Isn't it a part and parcel of a business, ups and downs, the semester as well?
Remember one thing, if a customer is satisfied, he pays you. He'll cut his pocket, but he'll pay you. And that is the value of customer satisfaction. There is a favorite line of mine, don't fix the numbers, fix the business. Numbers will happen automatically. Fix the business. Focus on customer satisfaction. Be a customer-centered organization. Believe in feedback loops from the market. Address those. And you can't fake them. Because good words also spreads like bad word very quickly. So receivables, in my mind, is a huge control. Then there are other factors. If there are political situations, there are acts of God, a business is going to fail, the whole country is going to get nationalized, you have got problems, right? There are various control points, but primary control points, see, in life you can have two situations. What is in your circle of influence? What is in your circle of concern? Hungry children in Ethiopia are in my circle of concerns. What can I do from here besides contributing cash to a body which provides food there? I can't do much. But what is in my circle of influence is here, what I can do. I would rather focus on that, right? So always remember that. What you can influence, spend your time on that. That makes a difference.
Sir,
Yeah, sure.
I want to just know about the last point, risk and impact.
Yeah.
So, suppose new organizations are entering into the new market. So they target for the future. Like we are supposed to cover our cost for the next 5 years. So what percentage of it's right or wrong? Are they really achieving that?
I have in fact got a very interesting slide covered, which tells you a typical pitfall which companies make when they go into new markets. Maybe I can address your question better there. And at that stage, if you still have the question, please ask it. All right? These are the mistakes companies repeat while entering new markets. Standard mistakes. Initiate business in new market without adequate research and infrastructure. Quite often again it's ego. I want to expand. High level numbers. Oh, it's a great market and I'm sure in 5 years it's going to grow. I don't need to do research. I don't need to plan about an infrastructure, just try and enter. That's one common mistake. Second mistake is treat market expansion as a source of incremental revenues. Now, I'm sure you all have gone through basic P&L here, right? So if you are only focused on a top line growth without a focus on the bottom line, are you doing the right thing for the company and your shareholders? There are too many people, and this is typically, mainly, and American companies are very popular for that. Top line growth. I grew year on year by 35%, but what about bottom line? If that remains stagnant or declines, the growth is of no value, right? Because how does business grow? When you make profits, part of it you give as dividends, you reap back money into the business, you enter into new technologies, new markets, reinvest into the business. That's how business grows. But if your bottom line starts shrinking, where is the money to invest? Right? So remember that.
Sorry to interrupt, but again, sir. So,
You don't have to feel sorry. You can interrupt.
can we have a proportion of top line and bottom line? Say, if this is my top line, this should be my bottom line. Kind of like, I can get a rough idea.
It varies from industry to industry. I would say a rule of thumb, your earnings before interest and tax. I don't want to go in interest and tax because that varies from country to country. So stop at EBIT level. Your EBIT divided by revenue, return on sale, that's the ratio. Now, in a typical engineering firm, if you are exceeding 10, you are doing brilliant. Right? If you are in a software industry and you are operating anywhere below 25, you are not doing well. You have got to be above 25. So different industries have got different norms. It depends on which industry you are in. A lot of companies adopt a sales push rather than a market-driven approach. It is like, I've got this product, I've got to sell it. One way or the other. Whether market wants it or not, bang. And it's my ego, so I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it at cost. Because there is someone there who's thinking, I must get the numbers up. I'll sell it at cost. Or maybe make 1 or 2% margin. People will love my product and I can step up. It's not that easy. It doesn't work. That's an idealistic situation. Whatever you do, you need to weigh the pros and cons. A lot of companies, when they enter new market, to grab market share, which is considered a big thing. I got a 10% market share. How much profit did you make? None. So is that worth it? What's the point in grabbing market share?
Can I share a story with
Yeah,
the
sure.
class on this? This is something which has been foxing me, had foxed me for quite some years. And then finally, I think it was the latter part of something Q3 last year, and a little bit earlier than that, I had an opportunity to talk to senior people in Titan. Titan, the watchdog. Apparently, in the early 90s, Titan decided to launch in Europe. Titan, 1987 was the first time Titan products were launched in India, but incorporated in 84. 87 is when they launched the product in India, and 92 or 93 is when they launched in Europe. And 2003 or 4, they finally, managed to write off the losses they're making. Right? Now, if you just take a look at some of these funds, with adequate research and infrastructure, Europe is a very mature watch market, really mature watch market. All the big time brands you can think of, almost all of them are European, with one exception, which is Timex and 2 from Japan. Right? So that's lack of research. What is the strength of the competition they're likely to face? Second, infrastructure. Do they have, you talked about management bandwidth, who's going to manage the business? You might send somebody from India to Germany or wherever, now you run the European business. Does he know the European market? Does he know the channel partners that he has to set up? Does he know, or can he circle of influence? Can he control the kind of outlets his product should be available in? What kind of price and margins can he afford? Now, that to me is a great thing, sales push. Because my numbers are, in really bad shape. So periodically people will wander from, Bangalore to London or Frankfurt and come on, sell. The gesture is very infectious. And for, I think, 7 years, they mucked around in Europe. In between they goofed also, because sales push rather than market development. The second part of it is, now the product designs that work in India, will they work in Europe? If you're going to sell a watch at 1,000 rupees, let's say at that point in time, or 500 rupees, for Indian market they're very modern and so on and so forth. For the European market, are they appropriate? Or the European customer say, that's really old hat, I don't want to touch that stuff. Then they compounded the mistake by launching branded jewelry in Europe. Right? The branded jewelry that they had was Indian designs. do European women want to wear Indian design jewelry? So that's again, like, this one. And okay, finally they figured out that, I think after 2 or 3 years, they figured that they had burned enough money and they needed some time to recover, and exit out of Europe took them something like 3 years. It's not easy to wind down. It's not to say, okay, put naftal on your main office and run away the first day. Hey, sorry, I took a little longer.
Please, Simon. It's all about sharing. I touched upon this earlier, top line obsession, too early in the process. 30% CAGR. What about bottom line? Nobody talks about it. Talks about top line. We are growing 30% year on year. Obviously, if I'm operating at minus 20%, I'll grow 30% year on year. Right? So, failure to think rigorously how business is developed over the years. This is where people spend minimum time. Studying that terrain, studying the channels, studying whether the infrastructure is, how do you set about the infrastructure, how do you set up first in metros, how then you go to tier 2 cities, how do you expand your business, do you start locally manufacturing there, what is the import duty in those countries, all that. Are the import duties going down over a period of time? Does it show a market which is going to become open? Or is it a closed market which is opening, like India liberalized in the early 90s? All those became consideration. How your business will grow. You need to have a window of 3 to 5 years ahead of yourself. You can't go 10 years later. At least 3 to 5 years to the maximum effort. And at the same time, I'm not a proponent, please let me tell you, I'm not a proponent of gathering 120% facts before you venture into business. As long as you got 70% of the facts right, balance 30% go with your gut. But that 70% is important. And that 70% has got to be vetted out. You need to be sure about what you're saying. Right? Following standard processes, especially for marketing and human resource development. A lot of companies have got very nice processes. They have their entire system within the domestic market, in their parent, in their headquarters. But they don't think about these things when they are going into the other country. How they developed here, how did they set up human resource process, what are the training that they gave. The same processes are not. I'll tell you, I work for a multinational and I've been with the company now for 17 years. It's only in the last 5 years, I would say, we are getting truly globalized. The HR initiatives in US happen simultaneously in India. Before that, it was pretty much left. Asia had its own culture. Within Asia, there was a Hong Kong culture, there was a China culture, there was an India culture. Everything was different. And that doesn't tire. You need to have uniformity of policies. The same culture, the thought process, it should be there across the organization. Investing disproportionate opportunity, aspirations, and strategy. This could work 2 ways. There are organizations like Coke and Pepsi. India, 1 billion people plus. Yeah, somebody will have our drink, right? Somebody will have it. So invest. Each one of them has invested over 1.5 billion, and to date they are not making money. To date they are not making money, and you know why? It relates to one of the points earlier. They never thought that in India there is competition such as ganne ka juice, right? Chai round the corner, Kala Katta, all that is competition, mind you. And at any given time, I would love a sugarcane juice compared to a Coke. Why would I have a Coke? I never have a Coke. It's my personal example. I prefer to have a fresh lime soda, That's much better. So they never thought of the multiple competitions that they have. They just went, someone from Harvard, they presented them great numbers, right? And they love it. They hire someone like McKinsey, pay them $1 million to tell you what you already know. Because then you justify it. McKinsey told me. So if things go wrong, it's always someone else's fault.
He's taken the money and gone anyways.
Yes. He comes, he tells you a lot of things, and finally goes away. and you have lost $1 million. Our organization has done it, and now gradually we are learning. Now we leave it to the local organization to decide whether they need an outside consultancy or internal management leadership is strong enough to come up with a strategy and an approach forward. So lack of adequate management attention and mentoring. Mentoring is a key role in organization. Very often, as you see, as you grow in your leadership position in time to come, your job will be more and more of mentoring your team members, guiding them, giving them. Today, if you ask me what work do I do, Shalini sitting there will tell you I do no work. Am I right, Shalini? My table is absolutely empty. There are no papers on my table except when someone comes to get something signed, which I hate to, but I have to sometimes. But I spend a lot of time talking to people. That's my job. And that will be your job. You need to guide people. You need to hold small meetings, get people engaged, get them inspired to think on their own. You should reach a stage where people come to you with 5 problems. They also come with 5 solutions or 3 solutions for each problem. And you only discuss with them their solution. You don't tell them. So they learn on their own. In your life, focus yourself on creating 10 more leaders. You don't need 1,000 followers. 10 leaders and you've done a great job. Focus on doing that. So that's what it is. Spend time on mentoring. And this is very, very crucial for, especially when you're thinking of these big plunges, which can work either way.
Sir,
Yeah, sorry.
sir, how do you define leader?
You tell me how you define leader.
Sir, I define leader as a common man with an uncommon identity. And that's uncommon identity is leadership.
Okay. Anyone else?
To inspire other group of people. How do you find that?
I think there are multiple definitions of leadership. You see, Dhoni is a leader. He is not like a manager, he's a leader. He inspires his team. He makes his team dream his own dreams. Right? The whole team gets inspired to think that way. That's what leadership is about. It's not about standing and delivering 3 hours of monologue to your team, whether they understand it or not, and beat the hell out of everyone, whether they understand it. I mean, very often people don't know why they are being beaten, unless you lead them through it. That what are the pitfalls, where we are going wrong, what we need to do. But the core thing is inspiring them, giving them the effort and energy to do things on their own and be happy doing it. And become truly professional. I mean, you define what is a professional. A professional is simply someone who does work with the same attitude and drive, even things which he doesn't like to do. Tomorrow you won't like to fill an HR form which you need to routinely fill, but as a professional you have to do it. It's a part of the process. Some people don't like to, do annual reviews with their team members. Sorry, if you are a leader, you will do the review, and you will do a review many times during the year. Every meeting with your team member will be a review. So, important issues. So that's why I'm saying there, penetrating and developing a new market can be an Achilles heel for a company's global capabilities. I'm sure all of you all are aware of the term Achilles heel, right? You didn't see Troy? It was on TV 2 nights ago. I mean, my favorite movie. I love the movie. In that, you have a character called Achilles, who was killed with an arrow on his heel. That is supposed to be the weakest point in your body, and that's what it is. Drop egos, be objective, and business proceeds well. Now, there are several routes to entering new markets. Let me take the simplistic one. The first one is a sales agent or a distributor. That means you appoint a third-party distributor who is operating in that country, who knows the local market, who is in a similar or affiliated business, and who can drive your product and solutions locally. Now, to support that distributor, companies may choose to have a resident office into that country. A resident office, if you remember, can be set up very quickly in any new country because there are laws, regulations, registrations. But setting up a resident office is very easy because you are not allowed to sell anything. The resident office is only for marketing. That means he goes and helps the distributor and distributor sells. Right? Now there are advantages and there are shortcomings. The key advantages are more, it's a low cost entry. You don't need to have a lot of money invested. It's got limited risk. If things don't work, in 6 months you wrap up, you're out. You pay the distributor his fair share for his effort and you're out. But greater speed to market. You don't need to wait. Very quickly, you're out there. What are the shortcomings? There is lack of transparency. Because the distributor will never tell you at what price he's truly selling into the market. Whether he's making 20% margin on your product, are you pricing him right? He'll never, his interest in making his own money. And I'll tell you a classic example of distributors. Most of the distributors hate to do after sales service. And I saw this during my tenure in Singapore. There was a medical company's distributor, and every year or two, he used to change to a new principle. His idea was, I sell the product. When it comes to maintenance, I don't have it. So he would shift from that distributorship to something else. But he used to make his money. But who suffered? The organizations who appointed him as a distributor, they lost their credibility in the market, the products were not serviced properly. So there are pitfalls, lack of transparency. Service capability, which I touched upon, is a pitfall. And you can have limited growth by this. Because the distributor is also not a large company. He also cannot invest so much. At best, he'll have 5-10 people supporting your business as long as it's making money. And you'll ask the same engineer or the same salesperson to also promote something else. So your interests are never fully satisfied. Strategic alliance. That means you join hands with some other company and enter a new market. And this works especially in situations such as projects. If I'm a project company, I make airports. I'm a construction company, I need an air conditioning partner, I need an electrical partner. These 4 or 5 companies get together, form a consortium, and they go as a strategic alliance into that country, right? Here the risk is shared because you've got others to share the risk with you. Speed to market, no problem. You enter, credentials of all the team members are good, you get a contract, you quickly enter into a new place. Again, the opportunity is limited. There is no flexibility in this relationship because you are bound by how you agreed to work on this contract. And third, it's a contract binding for a time frame. That means as long as that contract exists, you have that opportunity. That contract is over. If you're not moved in a quick, nimble manner, you're out of that country. So you gain nothing, you made a limited entry, you got some money on that opportunity and you're out. Right? Third is a joint venture. Why do people form joint ventures? Essentially, you share the risk and you share the gains, right? You have greater speed to market because your joint venture partner is a local company with whom you tie up and you can quickly spread out in the market, okay? Then you have a better service capabilities because since you are involved, whether 50%, 49%, whatever be your share in them, together you're doing it, right? On the flip side, you've got cultural differences. Your joint venture partner and you may or may not relate with each other. Right? Your joint venture partner may not have the same kind of hunger for growth as you have. So you must have seen that. Companies like, a lot of these auto companies first came as joint ventures into the country.
Yeah.
And then gradually acquired their partners because the partners said we can't invest anymore. And that was the strategy. A lot of multinationals with a lot of money used. They used to come, they used to form a joint venture, and then say, okay, we want to grow the business, we want to invest another 1,000 crores. Joint venture partner says, oh, sorry, I don't have that money. Okay, I buy you. And that's how Indian business is. But even joint venture partners didn't mind that because they put 100 crores initially. They walked out with 250 crores for their share capital. They made money, so they didn't care. But that's another approach. Okay. Acquisition, where you acquire a company in the local market or in an international market. very quick, you get additional business, their revenues, their bottom line, their brand image, everything comes to you. You get training power, you get manpower, and you get fast entry into the market. What are the problems with acquisition? Cultural issues. When the two companies come and get together, there are cultural issues. There is a lot of mistrust. Typically, a buying company feels that the organization which is acquired, they are not as good as that. And this does not happen at leadership level. This happens at the working level. Oh, you're from that company we bought. People are not, they don't relate to each other.